Hello and welcome to Chapter 10, Practice Problem for the end of chapter quiz. We're talking about depreciation methods, and let me just race through this real quick. When you're doing something like this, one of the things that they recommend you do, and this is actually promulgated by the CPA exam review, that you highlight and underline and stuff like that as you read through a problem, so that you don't wind up losing it somewhere, because there's a lot of numbers mixed up inside this paragraph. So like the old saying goes, getting lost in the woods for the trees being in the way. There are a lot of numbers, so don't get lost in this paragraph because of all the numbers in here. So we start with a machine costing $257,000. It has a 4-year life, and it has an estimated salvage value of $20,000. Okay. It's installed in Luther Company's factory January 1. So January 1, beginning of the year, so we're going to do a full year's depreciation. So tuck that in the back of your mind while you're looking at this. The factory manager estimates that the machine will produce 475,000 units of product during its life. So I'm going to highlight that because that will be important later on. It actually produces the following units: 220 the first year, 124 the second year, 121.8 the third year, 15.2 the fourth year. And it says total number of units produced by the end of year 4 exceeds the original estimate. Hint, hint right here, it says this difference was not predicted. The machine must not be depreciated below its estimated salvage value. There is something you need to take a hint with, okay? Then it goes on to say, required, prepare a table with the following column headings. There it is right there. And compute depreciation for each year and the total depreciation of all years combined for the machine under each different method, okay? There's a little check in there. So here's what I have. I already went ahead and set up a table here. So I've got the years 1, 2, 3, 4, straight line, units of production, double declining balance. And we're going to start from the very top. First method that we're going to do is straight line. Okay, with straight line, what you need to do is take the cost of the product, $257,500. That's the original cost. And you have to take the salvage value out of this. Why? Because when you start depreciating this thing, you don't want to depreciate the salvage value, so you don't want that included in your calculation for what is going to be depreciated. Alright, you will end up at the end of the 4 years with a salvage value of $20,000, so you have to take this out of the formula before you start calculating how much you depreciate every year. Okay, so now we come up with $237,500, and that's what's going to be depreciated over 4 years. So I simply will take this, divide that by 4, by the number of years, and I come up with the amount that I'm going to depreciate every year. And that dollar amount is going to be $59,375, just like that, $59,375. Okay, and that's what I'm going to put for each year. So under straight line, I'm going to depreciate $59,375. Alright, total is going to be $237,500. Oh my goodness, does that number look familiar to anybody in the room? Golly gee whiz, that's the same number right here that you used. You said you're going to depreciate $237,500 over 4 years, and there's the total of my 4 years of depreciation, $237,500. So if you don't come up with this number and it doesn't match this number here, you missed the boat somewhere, okay? So make sure you're paying attention when you're doing this. Alrighty, next, units of production. So here I do I'm looking at the total number of units that we are going to produce. This is a guess. We don't know for sure what's going to be produced. This is probably what the company says, or when the salesperson was sitting in your office telling you what a whiz-bang thing this is going to be. He probably said it's going to produce 475,000 units, and make it sound really great and impressive. Alrighty. So again, I'm going to depreciate only the book value amount, $237,500, okay, after I have taken care of deducting the salvage value, because again, under units of production, I don't want to depreciate the $20,000 salvage value. I only want to depreciate this, $237,500. So I'm going to take $237,500 and I'm going to divide by the total number of units that I think this thing is going to produce. Okay, so 475,000 divided into this, and it comes out to be 0.5, and I'm going to add a 0 because that'll be a significant number. And what happens is I'm going to depreciate this thing 50 cents per unit produced. So every unit that I produce, I'm going to depreciate 50 cents. Okay? And this is where we get into the next part of it, because it says here what actually was produced was 220,000 the first year, 124.6 the second year, 121.8 and 15.2 for the third and fourth year. So I'm going to take those units of production, I'm going to multiply that by 50 cents per unit. Okay? Everybody follow along with this logic? So 220,000 units times 50 cents is going to be 110,000, right? So it's quite literally half of the number of units, but in the calculation. Okay, next, 124,006 for the second year times 50 cents per unit. That then gives me 62,300. Next, 121,800 for the third year times 50 cents per unit. That's going to be 60,900. Now if I get here to the fourth year, it says 15,002 for the fourth year, and I wind up thinking, oh wait a minute, there's a little hint that it cannot go past the total number of units. Okay, so I'm going to get out my calculator. I'm going to figure this thing out. I did 220,000 units the first year. The second year I did 124,600 units. The third year I did 121.8 units. So I'm up to 466,400. And I can only go up to how many? 475,000 units. So if I subtract 475 from that, I should only do 8,600 units, not 15,200 units. I cannot go past the predicted amount of 475,000 units. I have to stop at that point for total number of units produced. So I'm going to take that 8,600 times my 50 cents, and my last year is going to be 4,300. Okay, and if I total this up, I will come up with the same numbers I did right here, 237,500, which is this what has been used to depreciate, okay, less the salvage value, okay. So here I go. This totals up to 237,500, and I would calculate it. I'm not going to do it right now, but I will tell you, if you were to go through these numbers here and add them up, they will equal 237,500. Excuse me. So you can do that on your own time, not my time. And so there you go. There's the units of production. Now, double declining balance. I want to talk a little bit about that first so that everybody's on the same page. It's called double declining balance. Why? Because it is taking straight line, and the proportion that gets depreciated every year, that's going to wind up being, that rate is going to be doubled. Okay, so if I'm taking the same amount every year for 4 years straight, then what is the proportion that I am taking every year using straight line depreciation? Well, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, that's 4 years. How much is that multiplied, or rather divided into 100%? Well, it's 25%, so I'm doing 25% of the total here, 25% of the total here, 25% of the total here, 25% of the total here. 25% times 4 years, that makes 100%, doesn't it? Okay, so one way to think about this is to take 100% and divide that over 4 years, and that gives me 25%. And then double declining balance, sorry I didn't put this up here, you can see it. 100% divided by 4 years is going to be 25% every year that you're going to be depreciating. That 25% then is multiplied by 2. It's doubled. Thus the name double declining balance, and that's going to give me 50%. So I'm literally going to depreciate 50% of my depreciable amount, okay. I'm going to take that and I'm going to depreciate 50% every year until I have depreciated all of it. So that's the meaning behind double declining balance. Okay, so let's go into the problem for double declining balance.